Right, so this is the second part of my video ranking the top world champions in Great Britain and Ireland. If you haven't seen the first part of the video, please look at it. I'm not going to go through the reasons, but I had Lee Haskins 12, Anthony Crolla 11, Liam Smith 10, Andy Lee 9, Terry Flanagan 8, Scott Quigg 7. Bearing that in mind, it's probably no surprise who my number 6 is. The hint was that I said Scott Quigg's form can largely be summed up by beating Kiko Martinez. So I think Carl Frampton and Scott Quigg are on a similar footing there, and I'm giving Carl Frampton 6. The reason I rate Frampton slightly higher: 1, he's got a better version of the world title than Scott Quigg. 2, he beat Kiko Martinez twice. And 3, and most importantly, he beat Kiko Martinez before Scott Quigg, which I think is relevant. So Carl Frampton at number 6. Clearly the winner of Frampton and Quigg has the potential to go much, much higher. Whoever wins, it will be a career high victory for them. It will be a victory against one of the top guys in the division, which will help propel them up towards the top. At number 5, now this is a selection that may surprise a few people, because I put it out on my Facebook earlier and a few people said this guy was the number 1. But my 5th strongest world title holder, is Kell Brook. And I'll tell you why. Kell Brook beat a genuine top level fighter in Sean Porter. But at the time, it's hard to say Sean Porter was ranked higher than 5th or 6th, and that was a tight fight. People have sort of a bit of selective memory about that fight. That was a tight fight. I remember when it went to the judges thinking that they might give that to Porter, He looked good against Porter, Brook. He looked very, very good. But the problem is he's done nothing since. Wins against Jojo Dan, wins against Frankie Gavin don't really help for the purposes of these ratings. They're somewhat an irrelevance. And he's now become slightly inactive. He's had inactivity from, when he got stabbed. He's had inactivity again now from this rib injury. And really, how do we rate Kell Brook as a world champion? It kind of revolves around that Sean Porter fight. Now, that's very, very good form. But as a standalone piece of form, it's not like he's beaten a dominant champion who was top of his division. I mean, this guy was Porter, who's a great fighter, Porter, but Porter was rated behind Floyd, Manny, Tim Bradley, maybe even other fighters that you could mention if you went back at the same time. Keith Thurman, Amir Khan, they'd be on the same sort of level. So, yeah, Kell Brook is a huge upside. The guy is a class act, and in the division he's in, he could easily be our number 1 world champion, easily. But we need the big fights for Kell Brook, and at the minute, that's not happening, which is why he's at number 5. Number 4, Lee Selby. It was very tight which order to put Kell Brook and Selby in. The reason I did it is I think that Gradovich and Sean Porter represented similar level of form in their respective divisions. Selby stopped Gradovich, and Selby has some other good form. The win against Montiel recently was respectable. The way he stopped the then undefeated Joel Bronca was pretty respectable. Selby looks like a class act. I just say to him over Kell Brook, because I thought outside of their main wins, Gradovich and Porter, Selby's form was arguably a bit stronger. If Kell hadn't had fights with Jojo Dan and Frankie Gavin, it may be a bit different. But, there we are. At number 3, I've got James Degale. And the top 3, I think, all have claims of being number 1 in their division. Kell Brook, Lee Selby, Quigg, Frampton. I don't see a real strong argument to have them as the number 1 in their division. Whereas these top 3 guys, I think you could make real arguments that all 3 of them are the top. So number 3, I've got James Degale. The win over Andre Durrell was very, very impressive. Andre Durrell is an excellent fighter. He's got some really strong form with Carl Frotz, with Arthur Abraham, as we know. And, that was a tight fight. The Lucien Boutte fight was tighter than I expected it to be, but Lucien Boutte really showed up, and in hindsight, that wasn't a bad win for James Degale. He won the title when it was vacant, but I think the fact it was against Andre Durrell kind of almost makes up for that, and means that we can put that to one side. I don't see too many guys at £168 who would start as favourite over James Degale. In fact, let me rephrase that. I don't see anyone at £168 who starts as favourite against James Degale. So I've got him as the third top rated world champion. Number 2, Jamie McDonnell. Jamie McDonnell has improved dramatically recently. I know he had some losses in his career, but right now he's performing at new peaks, and his recent back-to-back away wins against Kameda deserve massive respect. I actually thought he did a better job of it second time round than he did first time. And whilst he's not the most glamorous fighter, he's not in the most glamorous division, he's not a big puncher, he's not a big personality, us hardcore boxing fans have to acknowledge that this is a seriously skilled operator and a real top guy within his division. How many guys out there at a minute in his division would you pick to beat Jamie McDonnell right now? And the reason, again, him and Degale, it was like when I was deciding who I'd rank higher out of Selby and Brook, him and Degale, I kind of changed my mind once or twice over. But I just shaded it to McDonnell based on longevity, based on number of defences, basically. But yeah, Jamie McDonnell, an underrated fighter. Finally, by process of elimination, you've worked it out. The top champion is Tyson Fury. Let me tell you why I've picked him as the top. Number 1, I don't think there's any argument that he is at present the number 1 rated heavyweight. You could make an argument that James Degale isn't the top rated 168 pounder. I disagree. I think he is. But you can't really make an argument at this point that Tyson Fury isn't ranked number 1. We've talked about how people win titles. Lee Haskins winning it on the scales. Andy Lee winning a vacant title. Tyson Fury went to an established super champion's backyard, a pound-for-pound king who'd reigned for 10 years, and ripped the belt away from him. Tyson Fury's form is the strongest form available in the heavyweight division. I mean, I've talked about other fighters earlier in the list, like Scott Quigg, who I've said has only beaten 1 fighter, Kiko Martinez. And you could make the argument that Tyson Fury's only beaten 1 fighter. Certainly, his other best wins are Chisora, Steve Cunningham. They're respectable yardsticks, but I would agree they're a step down. But the difference is, Scott Quigg's beaten 1 fighter in Kiko Martinez. Tyson Fury's form equates to Scott Quigg beating 1 fighter in Guillermo Rigondeaux, because his form over Klitschko is, rock solid. The only man to beat Klitschko when David Haye failed, when Povetkin failed, when Pulev failed, when Samuel Peter failed. The list goes on. Based on his win this weekend, based on who he beat, based on how he did it, and based on being really the number 1 in his division without any shadow of a doubt and any real substantial argument he's not, Tyson Fury is number 1. So let me just recap. Top of the pop style. Number 12, Lee Haskins. 11, Anthony Crolla. 10, Liam Smith. 9, Andy Lee. 8, Terry Flanagan. 7, Scott Quigg. 6, Carl Frampton. 5, Kell Brook. 4, Lee Selby. 3, James Degale. 2, Jamie McDonnell. And 1, Tyson Fury. Let me know your thoughts on the list. How do you agree with it? Let's just finish by saying there's some real talent in Britain right now. And I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever to see a few new champions joining this list in the next year. I've already said in this 2-parter that I think Billy Joe Saunders will join the list, albeit at the expense of Andy Lee. Obviously, you've got Anthony Joshua in the heavyweight division, who a lot of people are behind. I'm trying to think who else is coming through. Callum Smith, certainly someone to mention. Who knows if Amir Khan may regain a world championship. Then in the lightweight division, a lot of big fighters. Luke Campbell on the way up. Kevin Mitchell might get another chance. We shall see. But it's exciting times for British boxing. It's exciting time for Irish boxing as well. Let me know your thoughts on my list. If you've enjoyed this video, do give me the thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it. Many thanks for watching.